What is the price of a human life? It is a question philosophers have asked for millennia. But in the 21st century, it is no longer merely abstract. It has become a spreadsheet, a calculation made by pharmaceutical companies, by insurance agencies, by government negotiators sitting across the table. Consider about this. A single dose of a gene therapy for spinal muscular atrophy, a rare genetic disease that is the leading genetic cause of infant mortality worldwide, costs $2.1 million in the United States. The manufacturer has disclosed that its total research and development investment for this therapy reached $9.4 billion. $9.4 billion in, $2.1 million per patient out. These numbers are staggering, but they are not just numbers. They are decisions about who lives, who dies, and who get to choose. Today, we are going to ask three questions. First, how do we justify these prices? And second, what happens when a society says no? And third, when life has a price tag, what does that make us? Let us start with the pharmaceutical industry's perspective, because it is not unreasonable. Developing a new drug is extraordinarily expensive. A 2020 study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association estimated that the average cost of bringing a new drug to market, from discovery to regulatory approval, is approximately $1.3 billion. For gene therapies, the costs are even higher. The $9.4 billion invested in Zolgensma is not an anomaly. It reflects the immense scientific uncertainty, the years of failed experiments, the clinical trials that go nowhere. Moreover, rare diseases have small patient populations. Spinal muscular atrophy affects approximately 1 in 10,000 live births globally. A systematic review and Bayesian modeling study published in 2026 estimated that the global lifetime prevalence of SMA across all ages at 0.01%. That is roughly 1 in 10,000 people. When you spread billions of dollars in research costs over a few thousand patients, the per patient cost is inevitably astronomical. For a purely economic standpoint, the pricing makes a certain kind of sense. But here's an ethical problem. Economic logic and moral logic are not the same thing. If a drug exists but 99% of people who need it cannot afford it, does the drug really exist for them? A cure that only the wealthy can access, for everyone else indistinguishable from no cure at all. This brings us to the second question. What happens when a society decides that the price is unacceptable? In 2021, China's National Healthcare Security Administration sat down with the manufacturer of Nisinsen, another SMA treatment, which had been priced at approximately $110,000 per injection. The first set of treatment requires 6 injections. For most families, this is not a choice. It was a sentence. The negotiation lasted an hour and a half. The government negotiator thought something that later went rival. No small group should be left behind. The price came down from roughly $11,000 per vial in the initial offer to about $4,600 after negotiation. With insurance coverage, patients now pay a fraction of that. What happened here was not just a price cut. It is a moral statement, a society saying that a child's life should not be priced out of existence. Now, critics will say, this is government overreach. Pharmaceutical companies need profits to fund the next generation of cures. If you cap prices too aggressively, you kill innovation. The next $9.4 billion drug may never be developed. This is a very serious argument, but there is a counter-argument that is equally serious. In 2024, China's medical insurance fund spent approximately 8.6 billion yuan, about $1.2 billion, on rare disease drugs covered under the National Reimbursement Scheme. That represented about 7.7% of total drug expenditures under the program. 7.7% for a population that, by definition, is rare. The question is not whether we can afford to save rare disease patients. The question is whether we can afford not to. And what kind of society that choice will reveal us to be. Now, let's turn to the deepest ethical question of all. First, does a pharmaceutical company have an unlimited right to set its own prices? The standard defense is innovation requires reward. So, without high prices, there is no incentive to develop drugs for small populations. This is a logic that brought us effective treatments for diseases that were previously death sentences. But here is a counterpoint. When a drug has already recoupled its research costs in wealthy markets, when the $9.4 billion have been earned back, and then some, is it ethical to continue charging the same price in developing countries? To charge a price that effectively excludes 99% of the patients who need it? Second, is it fair to spend limited public resources on rare diseases? A common objection runs like this. The money spent on one rare disease patient could save hundreds of patients with common diseases. Isn't that a more efficient use of resources? This is an authoritarian argument, and it has force. But there's another conception of fairness. One that says fairness is not about giving everyone the same thing. It is about giving everyone what they need. A child with SMA needs a drug. A child with a common infection needs antibiotics. These are not competing claims. They are both claims on a society that has promised to care. Third, when we put a price on life, what do we become? When a drug costs $2.1 million, the implicit message is, this life is worth as much. When the price comes down to $4,600, the message changes. But the price was never really about life. It was about who has the power to set the price. The story of rare disease drugs is not really a story about drugs. It is a story about what we value. Every society makes choices about who gets care and who does not. The difference is whether we make those choices explicitly through negotiation and policy, or implicitly through the brute facts of unaffordable prices. So when we say a drug is too expensive, we are not really talking about the drug. We are talking about ourselves, about the kind of community we want to be. The $9.4 billion investment produced a curve, but the curve does not exist in a vacuum. It exists in a world where some can afford it and some cannot. And our world is one we have built together. The question is not can we afford to save them? The question is, can we afford not to? Thank you for listening.